Chris McCracken,
Yes.
tell us something.
All right, so Borderlands 3.
Yeah,
you,
doggone it.
You might have heard about.
Yes.
They're going to be coming out with a patch here soon, and it is going to be introducing crossplay, which I guess has been a big thing that has been. I mean, I honestly, I thought they had it, but
I know. When I saw the story, I was like,
Yeah.
Borderlands 3 ain't got crossplay? Okay.
but I don't play a lot of Borderlands, so it makes sense. It's like, okay, well, if they didn't, then great, they're going to be bringing it out. But there's yay and nay on it. So the good news is that they are going to be bringing out crossplay. The bad news is that for certification, they have been required by the publisher to remove crossplay for PlayStation.
Yeah,
Now,
what the heck?
This is kind of a big question mark because Sony is not the publisher of the game, and neither is Gearbox. The publisher is 2K. And the way that information was relayed in a tweet from Randy Pitchford, and the way that he said it is that they're required to pull it from the publisher saying that.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, well, why 2K got a beef? Why do they want it on the PlayStation side? And now we don't know, and maybe this stuff will come to light. But the only thing that's like, okay, well, we can kind of look at some tea leaves and some other things that we know and kind of put some things together. And one thing that we did find out, which I don't remember if we talked about on the show or not, but Epic and the Apple trial showed that Epic will pay Sony a royalty if sales get down below a certain amount in order to enable crossplay. So basically, if they have crossplay, they enable it, and then if Sony makes less money, and even though a lot of time is being done theirs, but their revenue dips down, then they get a royalty, like a kickback.
Right.
And so Epic made that deal with Sony so in order to have crossplay. So we know that that's a thing that Sony's at least done with Epic. We don't have any evidence that that's like their across the board with everybody thing.
Right.
Because there are other games outside of Fortnite that have crossplay enabled.
Well, it's one of those things, though, that we talked about. Remember at the time, too, Chris, and maybe you're about to say this, but they said like some huge percentage of people that were playing Fortnite was on the PlayStation. So I wonder if that's what gave them the power to make that deal. And if they were trying to do that deal with 2K, do you think that it would go without saying that most of the people playing Borderlands 3 are playing on the PlayStation as well, and that's why they would try that? Or do you think that they would just try that regardless of where most people played?
I mean, I don't know stats specific to Borderlands in particular, but I would think it would be within reason to think that the majority of people who play that game on a console probably play it on a PlayStation console of some sort, whether it's a PS5 or a PS4 more than likely, just because it had such a huge lead in the market share last generation. Right. So just kind of by default, I think that's the way that it would be. Exactly. So you would, if that's the case, you would almost think that it'd be the same sweetheart deal. It'd be like, look, we're going to do this deal. It's not like we're breaking even. We're just getting some back. But you probably don't have to worry. I'm assuming there's data out there saying you don't really have to worry about it much because majority of the people are going to be playing over here anyways, and most people blah, 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 blah. But for whatever the reason is, 2K has decided to block this on the PlayStation side. So this has churned up more feelings on the internet about because Sony was the one kind of holding out for crossplay at the beginning in the first place.
Yeah, initially, yeah. And
so even though we've kind of touched on this in the past, I just kind of want to bring it back around because now time has gone by. There's way more games that have this kinds of stuff. Where, not knowing for sure that Sony has anything to do with this, but you have to think that in some way, shape, or form they have something to do with it. Or there's some reasoning stemming from them that the reason this isn't happening. So, thoughts? Do you have beef? Are you like, it stinks, but I get it, or like what's your thoughts? Where do you stand?
I don't like that I've seen people yelling at Sony or at 2K because we don't know. Right. I hope that it was they approached it and maybe Sony came back with a similar thing with Epic. Well, okay, but if we're gonna do it, this is the deal, and if it doesn't do this, then you've got to pay this. And I hope it's just 2K saying, okay, let's hold off and let's talk about this and let's see what we can set up, and hopefully it's one of those, let's just see what kind of deal we can strike rather than you saying this is how it's going to be. Let's talk about it. I hope that's what's going on.
And I'm with you, Ed. Like, of course, that's what I hope is going on. But I think just as the headline, it continually looks bad for Sony. Like if how many people read the headline versus read the story, right?
Right.
And so, especially in our day and times now with, working within 260 characters, whatever it is on Twitter these days. And so that like I would think that most people just see that and blame Sony and think it's Sony because Sony's been a little bit of, not, being so privy to joining the party before, like why now, you wouldn't think they would now. So it does like it hurts me because I feel like PlayStation or Sony as a brand, I feel like even though they might be quote unquote winning, in perception they're probably not. Like Game Pass is amazing and Microsoft makes us feel like, yeah man, crossplay everything, what you mean? And then PC is just glad to be getting some of these first party games from PlayStation and stuff like that, and they've got obviously a massive library of things they could be playing. And so I think just in the public eye, I hate it because it makes Sony not look good. And I want everybody to look good and be competitive. I don't think it has to be either or. I don't think you have, like, you know what I'm saying? If you're competitive, then one of you got to look bad. It's like, no, both of you can be killing it. Somebody just be killing it a little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's my thoughts is I just hate that that's the way it looks for Sony because, again, I think that they have amazing things that they put out.
It's definitely Sony. I've worked a lot of films, websites and films with Sony and Sony Pictures in particular. Man, do they just legal up on everything. And ever since their data breach that happened years ago, they are paranoid about absolutely everything. And to be honest, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they're paranoid about crossplay here, because then that accesses into the Sony system, and God forbid something were to happen. It's frustrating for me because I think it's definitely making Sony look bad. And honestly, I think they're going to play their way and they're just going to lawyer up and be done with it. And that sucks because Borderlands 3 is great. It plays well on the PlayStation. And I hate that there's some squabble here over it. But it's just a Sony legal thing. It's always a Sony legal thing. And every time I work on anything, it's a legal thing.
I wish that they could say that, though. Then, you know what I'm saying? If that's the case, if they came out and were like, hey, we love crossplay, we promise. We just don't know if 2K's security is up enough that we would want to open our gates to them. Because, Tim, it's not like we're saying they don't crossplay. Like, obviously they do with Call of Duty. Obviously they do with Fortnite. Obviously they do with all these other things.
Right.
So it's like when one comes along and they don't all of a sudden, you're like, you feel like it's Sony, but it's like I wish that there was a back and forth, where like Chris and Ed were saying, like, since we just don't really know why the reasons would be, and maybe it is a bum deal. Maybe they are like, listen, 78% of people play it over here, so we want any kickback on these microtransactions. They're like, we can't do that. It's like, all right, well, and then 2K's like, all right, nope, on the thing. You know what I mean? It's just it is frustrating, though. It's a little bit of a bummer.
It's such a popular franchise too. I mean, it's Borderlands, for crying out loud. Like,
no.
I would think you would give more leeway because it's a successful IP. They do everything really, really, really well. Now, granted, this is 2K actually distributing everything, but I felt like they've always had a great relationship with them. So why completely crap on them now?
Yeah. Are there other games crossplay? Like, you know what I'm saying? 2K's games, I would imagine they are.
I don't know about 2K.
Yeah, I don't know. And
I'd have to research it.
It's weird too because other than like a season pass, there aren't microtransactions in the game. And I don't know where that comes into effect, as opposed to...
There aren't any in outside of like the season pass thing? I don't know. There's not anything. You can't buy like a cosmetic of any sort or something?
There might be, but you would have to get it in the store.
It's not super prevalent if it does exist.
Yeah, you'd have to go into the PlayStation or Xbox store to get if there is.
So if that is the case, then that makes me raise an eyebrow even further, because the way that I kind of likened it is like, look, I said this on Twitter, I was like, look, I have benefited from crossplay. Yeah, I've used it. I've enjoyed it. I've connected with friends on other devices, and it's been great. I think crossplay is a fun thing, and I like it being a thing that's in the industry now. But at the moment, maybe the tides are turning, and we shall see. But at the moment, for all visibility that we have on the console side, Sony is the market leader. The only person who stands to lose out financially by enabling crossplay and or cross progression, if that were a thing too, is the person who makes the most money at it, which in this case would be Sony. So right. I understand. Like, if I'm a business person and I'm like, look, I stand to lose money on this deal. I may look good, but looking good is not going to pay my bills. And I'm using that facetiously because, I understand that they make tons and tons of money. But
right.
Making games costs a lot of money. And we've already kind of established before, like talking about on the show, how because their model is more the traditional way of everything, and they're not doing like the Game Pass style model, at least at the moment, they're potentially in more of like their stuff's got to hit hard to make that money to continue to make the things. They don't have necessarily just this coming in income outside like PlayStation Plus and what little bit they're getting from PS Now. So I don't know. It's like, while I'm there, I'm like, if that has something to do with it because of the kickback thing, which I don't know how that would work if there's not really microtransactions at all anyways, it's a bummer, yes, but I understand where they're coming from. I mean, it's not to the point yet where I feel like it's egregiously, okay, now you're just the hog eating all the slop. You just want off yourself. Like, it doesn't feel nefarious to me yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't get there to where it's egregious. Maybe it will, but at this point in time, I just don't. I can't quite get there yet. Even though I do agree it's a bummer, especially in this case if there's no microtransactions. Like, what's the deal?
Right.
Just come out and tell us.
And just looking really quickly, and I could be wrong, but the games I've looked up so far is WWE 2K20, NBA 2K. None of those are crossplay. So
on PlayStation or at all that you know of.
So WWE is cross-play between Xbox and PC, which usually, a lot of times was the case, but not with PlayStation. And so this
Can you see from that, is PlayStation cross-play with PC on the WWE thing?
I'm not seeing that.
Because that's been a thing in the past, too, where like Sony will play with PC or whatever, before they cross the bridge to the other console.
Remember, I think you had to do that with Rocket League in the early days of crossplay. Remember, you had to play with a PC guy, and then the Xbox guy connect to the PC guy, and then you were all able to play together.
Oh, really?
And even way back in the PS3 days, I think Portal 2 was crossplay between PS3 and PC.
This is September 18th, 2020, so this is a while ago. But WWE 2K Battlegrounds, they're like a little bit more cartoony looking wrestling game, is now allowing crossplay support between Xbox, PC, Stadia, and Switch.
Wow.
So that's obviously missing PlayStation as well. So it sounds like this is not the first game to kind of run into this issue with them.